Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Midnight Skeptic, and this recording will be broadcast on Sunday the 7th of this year at the usual time, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and at kpca.fm worldwide and locally 103.3 FM. And on YouTube, as soon as I get this loaded up to YouTube. And today is 4th of July, so happy Independence Day, everybody. And it's a Thursday, and it's a little bit after 3 o'clock. So let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another rant by the Midnight Skeptic. Last week, I forgot to play my play-in music and intro, so here it is. And I also apologize for my voice from last week's show. I hope this sounds better than my voice did last week. You are listening to KPCA LP. Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, as always, my goal, at least one of them, is to rid this country of all GOP MAGA heads, Republicans, conservatives, and Christian nationalists. I'm doing this in my own small way via this broadcast on kpca.fm and YouTube. Okay, everyone knows that Trump is a scumbag. Even his base knows that, but a significant percentage of his base or of worshipers wear that fact as a badge of honor. And they say, if he makes the libs sorry and angry, then yay for our side. I recognize the large divisions within our electorate, but it's not 50-50 as some so-called pundits claim. And I also saw the first part of this recent so-called debate. Okay? President Biden didn't do so well. I just hope the Democratic Party comes together and makes a reasonable decision along with President Biden. Okay? He has to, he is the leader of the Democratic Party. And if he decides to step aside in the election or even step aside from the presidency in favor of Kamala Harris, it's his decision. And whoever ends up being the nominee for the Democratic Party in the 2024 election, we cannot let this Republican scumbag back into the White House. We just can't. Okay. Shout out time. Project Censored with Mickey Huff, Andy Lee Roth, and Nolan Higdon. Go to their website and for their newsletter and their books. Every year they publish a State of the Free Press 2024 now, but every year for the past, 5 or 6 years, they've put one out. They're just chock-a-block full of good information that you as thinking citizens should be aware of. John Crowley at the Aquas Cafe here in Petaluma at the Foundry Wharf, 2nd and H Street. Go to their calendar to see if any of the events going on there appeal to you. They have a good light dining fare, breakfast, lunch, and early dinner. It's all fairly light, but it's very, very good. Okay. Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix Theater. He is sort of the godfather of the alternative teen set here in Petaluma. And they have music every weekend. Go to their calendar to see what's coming up. Their music tends to grunge and metal. If you're into that, go there. Okay. Locally, Nariman and Art Kuznets and Rabbi Ted Feldman, who is retired now as a rabbi from B'nai Israel. My wife is Jewish, and she and I went to some of their events and celebrations, and that's where I met Rabbi Ted. He's a good man. Okay, Ralph Scott at Squeaky Cheese Productions, LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. He does audiobooks, and for the Petaluma radio players, which went defunct during the COVID close down, he tried to revive it briefly a few months ago, but not enough interest in him, I guess. Okay, Tim Conrad and Tom and Nancy Throw, and let's see, my shout outs. Rich and Kathy Berger in Sebastopol, Dave and Rosita Takach up in Sacramento, Kevin and Lori in Katati, Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon, Yvonne and Rick in San Francisco, Stan and Kathy down in Pacifica, Aunt Jackie and Samantha and Melanie in L.A., my brother Brandon and his wife Mina and their daughter Andrea, who's a nurse down in the Phoenix area. I'm not sure which hospital, but stay cool, you guys. It is hot down there, as it is up here, but nothing like it is in the Phoenix area. And in Patagonia, Arizona, Karina Hilliard, the animal control officer. In Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida, Nelson and Alice Lydell, and over in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, Amelia Beamer. Check her out at YouTube. Go to Locus, Locus magazine. They review books from the 3 genres: science fiction, horror, and fantasy. And she will let you know on YouTube which books they're reviewing for the current month. Okay? And you get to feast your eyes on Amelia Beamer. Okay, Dr. Dave in Raleigh-Durham, the world's greatest pulmonary physician, now retired, and pursuing his art career at the Lost Artists Collective up in Chicago, I think where he is right now. Not living there, but showing his work there. Okay, Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, and back here on the West Coast, up in Sonora, Robert Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, and their 2 children, Brad and Martha. Darrell Larson, Judy May, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle. And further up Highway 108 to Twain Hart, John Gleason and his 2 daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer. I don't think they're living with him up there. I'm not sure where they are now, his 2 daughters I'm talking about. Okay, and all the way down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. And I will have a segment on goings on in Mexico later on in this show. Okay. Good news. Australia will ban all vaping products from general retailers. They will be sold only at pharmacies. I don't understand the logic of this, however. If they are in any way dangerous or bad for youth, which they are, ban them outright. From the bill's passing to October 1st of 2024, people will need a prescription to buy them. What doctor would prescribe a vaping product? Ugh. I just don't understand the logic behind this. After October 1st, no prescription will be needed. Wow. All tobacco products, all vaping products, all nicotine-containing products should be banned. I personally lean a little bit toward libertarianism on these kind of things, but the exception I make is tobacco. They are evil. They are an evil industry preying on people's weaknesses. And okay, I don't want to, I'm off my notes, as you can probably tell. Bad historical news. All right. We're in the Middle East now. Okay. Hajj Amin Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, was the leader of the Palestinian Arabs and was paid by the Nazis since 1933. And during World War II, Hitler and the Nazis could foresee them going to war with England eventually. And since they had an outsized influence in the Middle East, they had a mandate in Palestine. They made friends with the Grand Mufti, Hajj Amin Husseini. Okay, and he was on their payroll, the Nazi Party's payroll. And he organized a coup in Iraq to put a Nazi in power, or a Nazi sympathizer in power. It failed. Then he instigated the Fanhud pogrom, Fanhud, a pogrom of June 1st, 1941, against Jews in Baghdad. He was the big organizing killer behind that. Okay. Bad historical news. Okay. In January of 1919, the first Palestinian National Congress met in Jerusalem and sent two memoranda, that's plural for memorandum, to the Paris Peace Conference that rejected the Balfour Declaration. And I've gone into what the Balfour Declaration was all about in previous shows, and demanded independence for the Arab people, which England promised to the Arab people if they would revolt against the Ottoman Empire and help the British against the Ottomans. Okay. The conference, the Paris Peace Conference, sent two Americans, Henry King and Charles Crane, to the Middle East in June of 1919 to examine the situation in Palestine. their report, which was not fully published until 1947, warned against the effects of unrestricted Jewish immigration and Zionist plans for the British mandate in Palestine. And in their report, they wrote, "The project for making Palestine distinctly a Jewish commonwealth should be given up. Britain brought together the Arab National Movement leader, Amir Faisal, and Zionist leader Chaim Weizmann to formulate an agreement on Arab-Jewish relations. In 1919, the Faisal-Weizmann agreement was signed that established a unified, independent Arab state with allowing for Jewish immigration. Well, how did that turn out? Not well. First of all, Britain went back on its promises. Well, duh. Okay, so this is all preparatory for what's going on now. Okay, bad news. Israeli land grab. On June 25th of this year, just a couple of weeks ago, Israeli occupation authorities declared 4.9 square miles of land in the Jordan River Valley to be state lands. That is step one to opening up more Palestinian land to Israeli settlers. Okay, as an aside, more than 150 countries now recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. Okay, the most recent ones are Norway, Ireland, and there's a third European country. I can't remember which it is, but Israel is fulminating and threatening them, threatening all countries that recognize Palestine. I am not anti-Jewish, but a lot of the things that the country of Israel is doing, especially under the right-wing Bibi Netanyahu government, I really disagree with. Okay, I am not a Zionist. That movement should have been nipped in the bud. Okay. Whew. Good news. Whew. Finally, some good news. Okay, Rudy Giuliani has been disbarred in New York, where he was the mayor from 1994 to 2001. Since then, he's become a toady for the orange sociopathic bloat bag. The court stated, quote, "By his false statements, he actively contributed to the national strife that has followed the 2020 election, for which he is entirely unrepentant." I hope those two poll workers down in Georgia that he maligned, and they have since received a lot of threats from the MAGA heads, worshippers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. I hope they're able to collect some money. He has declared bankruptcy, yet he is paying for his girlfriend's credit cards. I don't know who his girlfriend is. I ran across that tidbit on my MSNBC lefty propaganda shows last night. They don't know who his girlfriend is either, but Giuliani. Okay. Demographic good and maybe bad news. The fertility rate of 2.1% means your population isn't growing. It's just stabilized, unless something like another pandemic comes along. Okay, here's some official fertility rates for a few select countries. Us, the United States, right now, we're at 1.7%. Our birth rate in population, I guess, is going down slightly. Immigration is kind of keeping our population growing a little bit. Okay. Germany, 1.6%. Japan, 1.3%. They're losing population. And what population they have is growing older and older. That doesn't bode well for Japan. Russia, 1.1%. China, 1.0%. They are not sustaining their population, and they are growing older very rapidly. China pretty soon won't have any factory workers left to compete with other manufacturing countries. Okay, South Korea, 0.8%. Boy, that is bad news. England, 1.7%, just like us. Okay, the population of the whole planet mostly is aging, and fewer children are being born. And a lot of this can be attributed to the education of women, which is a good thing. That's why in Africa, we and other international aid societies should encourage young girls to get their education so that they will have fewer children. It just, not that I want the population of Africa to go down, but it's just better for the planet to have fewer people on it. Well, this is the way to do it. Educate women, provide them with contraceptives, outlaw child marriage if that can be done. Those are all the things that will ultimately help this planet. Okay, bad news for women. A 2-day conference in Doha, Qatar, is a UN-led discussion to develop a unified approach for international engagement with Afghanistan. They are a problem country. 25 countries sent representatives, including the United States and the European Union. The Taliban said Afghan women would be excluded. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, where was I? The Taliban said Afghan women would be excluded. Human rights and Afghan women's groups have slammed the decision. The decision risks, quote, legitimizing their gender-based institutional system of oppression, said Agnes Charmard, the Secretary General of Amnesty International. Human rights monitors say that Afghanistan has gender apartheid. I mentioned this, I think it was on last week's show or the week before, when all of these college kids were protesting in favor of Palestine. And some of them cried, "No more Israeli apartheid." If you want real apartheid to object to, why not try Arab countries? Afghanistan is just the worst of the worst. The others, like Iran, where women are required to wear black bags over their bodies, and other Arab countries, more or less, require their women to shield themselves or not go out without a male companion. That's real apartheid. Okay? Why don't you college kids object to that? You don't want to be seen as Islamic phobes? Well, that's one thing that I hate about the Islamic religion, is their treatment of women. And I've said before on many shows that all religions are, to some degree, misogynistic. When religions crept up in our far, far ancient history, it was bad news for women. Okay, I'm off my notes. I'm just riffing here. Okay, the Midnight Skeptic has been saying all along that all religions, are misogynistic. The Taliban and their brand of Islam is just an extreme example. All others have some degree of misogyny. Jewish ultra-Orthodox believers keep women in their place in the home, and fundamentalist evangelical Christians also keep women in their place in their homes, tending to their husbands' needs and having babies. They're not allowed to advance to church leadership. Now, I'm speaking specifically about the Southern Baptist Convention, the SBC. They passed a resolution outlawing women from the priesthood or pastorhood or whatever the church leadership is calling themselves. Gallup poll, good news. 69% of Americans believe that marriage between same-sex couples should be legal. 64% say gay and lesbian sexual relations are morally acceptable. In 1996, almost 30 years ago, when Gallup first polled this question, 68% same-sex marriage shouldn't be legal. We've come a long ways. Only 46% of hateful Republicans favor same-sex marriage. That is the influence of the Christian nationalists and on the MAGA-head Republicans. Okay, history. Background for a lot of the Mideast strife going on. History. The Jewish population of Judea and Galilee, now we're talking Jesus' time, was divided into three general philosophical groups, analogous to major religious divisions. The Pharisees were the largest group by numbers of adherents. The Sadducees were the wealthiest and most powerful. the priestly class drew their priests from the Sadducees group. The smallest group were the Essenes, Essenes. The Sadducees were temple first, urban, mostly well off, and secularly educated. If you can call what they did back in those days education. Okay. They supported the Roman government and in turn were supported by Rome. They did not believe in an afterlife or judgment day. They took the view that the duty of the average Jew was mostly to pay their temple taxes and just follow the rules. Essenes had the largely same beliefs as the Sadducees, but they thought the Sadducees had sold out to Rome. Well, in a way they did. They lived in separate communities, the Essenes, and had numerous mystical ideas. I won't go into what they were, but none of them made a whole heck of a lot of sense. The Pharisees were more numerous and diverse, being rural and small town people. They did believe in an afterlife. They did believe in a heaven and hell, resurrection at the end of time, Judgment Day. All these are ancestral beliefs to Christianity. Synagogues were Pharisee institutions. The Jewish rebellions against Rome of 70 to 73 AD and later in 132 to 135 AD resulted in the total elimination of the Essenes and the ruin and near destruction of Sadducee power. Only the Pharisees barely survived and morphed into current rabbinic Judaism. Early Christianity was a splinter cult of the Pharisaic Judaism. This cult disappeared around the time of the Jewish rebellion of 73. It was amongst a small group of Second Temple Jews looking for a quote-unquote anointed leader or a Messiah from the ancestral line of King David that Christianity first formed in relative obscurity. Okay. Early teachings of Christianity included egalitarianism, philosophy and ethics available to ordinary people. The role of women was greater than in other religions. They made no animal sacrifices and distributed bread to the hungry, nurtured the sick, and showed generosity to the poor. None of these things are Christian nationalist or GOP MAGA-head traits. They are not Christians according to what the early Christians believed and practiced. Good news. Animals Asia are racing to rescue the last 250 bears trapped in bear bile farms across Vietnam. Animals Asia is a nonprofit animal rescue group. Bear bile is a so called traditional medicine in Asia that has no real effect on human health. If you want to donate, and I hope that some of you might want to, I rarely ever advertise groups that need donations, but this is an exception. Go to info at animalsasia.org. All lowercase, animalsasia.org. Asian medical practices and herbalist claims. They claim all sorts of good healing effects from bear bile, from darkening hair to curing bruising and hangovers and sore throats, acne, hemorrhoids are just some of the unproven uses of bear bile. Cruelty to these bears, and they spend their life being raised in small cages, and they're fed minimal diets, and that's no reason to treat them this way. Even if bear bile does some good for humans, please donate to Animals Asia. I've, on previous shows, gone after pseudoscientific medical practices. Acupuncture is one of them. It does not work, other than your belief that it does. I'm riffing now. I'm off my notes. But Chinese herbalists should not be patronized. Now, some herbs that have been medically tested, scientifically tested, clinically tested, some, very few, but some, do work in the ways that Chinese herbalists claim. But it's very few. And, oh boy, I'm having a brain freeze on the other pseudoscientific medical practices. I hate these brain freezes, and after the show's over, it will snap into my brain. It will. Bad news from the right-wing fringe. In response to the Black Lives Matter activism and increasing LGBTQ visibility, more than 150 bills, that's in our country, seeking to undermine academic freedom and control university governance were introduced in state legislatures across the U.S. They were brought forward by far-right GOP MAGA heads and conservatives. A paper published by the American Association of University Professors identifies 11 right-wing and libertarian think tanks responsible for the cultural backlash against K through 12 and higher education, K through 12 schools and higher education. These 11 right-wingers on this paper, they claim that all university faculties are liberal, biased, woke, socialist, or Marxist leaning, and are hostile to free speech and conservative values. Project 2025 is their blueprint for the coming orange sociopathic bloat bag return to the White House. Oh my, let's hope that it does not happen. Please, please, please get out and vote out all Republicans. Okay, and these same people claim that most K through 12 school teachers indoctrinate kids into leftist beliefs such as acceptance, kindness, and sharing, which are definitely not GOP beliefs. Good guacamole news to end the show on. Americans have a growing appetite for avocados. Michoacan state in southwestern Mexico is where most avocados are grown. The United States imported 2.8 billion pounds in 2023. California produces about 90% of avocados that are grown in the United States. But due to weather irregularities, heat waves and grass fires, smoke, and all of that kind of stuff, California's avocado farmers are kind of having a hard time in the long run. Yeah. So we rely mainly on Mexican imports because they have more regular weather down in Michoacan state. One of the big drawbacks in Michoacan are the cartels, seeing a chance for a lot of profit, are kind of on the verge of infiltrating the avocado industry. And there has been some problems with American Agricultural Department inspectors that do go down there just to make sure that, not only are they free of pesticides, but that the workers out in the fields are treated properly. I mean, like rest breaks and shade and all of those kind of things, which Mexico should be taking care of itself, but are, not quite up to the task. But the cartels are a problem, and Michoacan is a fairly violent state down there in Mexico. Okay, I've finished this broadcast early, and so I'm going to play my out music now, and I'll have a little bit more to say after the whole out music stuff is over with. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, and we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, I knew it would happen. They infiltrated my mind. The non-proven medical practices that are bogus and should be avoided are homeopathic practitioners. Homeopathic drugs or treatments or medicines are bunk. They are just essentially water. And we, meaning the skeptics, have sued some large retailers about their positioning homeopathic drugs next to real medications. The Center for Inquiry, the CFI, back in New York, upstate New York, the headquarters that publishes the Skeptical Inquirer magazine, they have sued and won against, I think, CVS and anyway, and also naturopathic doctors who do have some medical training. However, they are advocates of homeopathic medicine, which is bunk, and they recommend, the needle sticking. Jesus, I'm having, this is a rough mental, when I get off my notes and riff, this always seems to happen. Acupuncture. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I will do this again. And remember what I said about the Middle East. I am not anti-Jewish and I am not anti-Islamic to the extent that they are all misogynistic, which I call them out on. And the world would be just better off if there were no religion on this planet. So, with that in mind, I will record another episode of the Midnight Skeptic next week to be aired. Okay. I'm not going to give you a date. I'll give you the date when I do it. Okay. So until next week, bye-bye. And believe me, petting a cat, if you're lucky enough to have one, is worth its weight in gold.